Hey everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. I'm Dan Clubb, that is Chris Pajak. We're here for the next half an hour or so to talk about all things relating to the Reds in today's news cycle. And first and foremost, hope everybody is okay. Please do get involved in the chat. Feel free to interact, ask us questions, tell us what's going on in your world along the way. Chris, how are you,
I can tell you what's going on in my world.
Please, I was going to ask you, you queued this up just before we went live, so please inform us, first and foremost, how you are, and not long after that, what's going on?
So, I'm fine. I've been doing, as you know, scuba diving lessons and stuff on a Wednesday evening. I had a pretty embarrassing story from last night that I was about to share. I was like, I don't need to just share it with you and Aaron. I can share it with everybody because I'm not asked, even though it is embarrassing. So obviously I've been going scuba diving and stuff, and I've been going home, getting my stuff, going there. I basically forgot my pants. So I had my swimming costume or the choice of driving home in my boxies and the towel.
And you chose?
Boxies and towel, which I looked pretty silly walking out of Everton Park Sports Centre in a towel at sort of 8 o'clock at night, 8:30 at night. But I did it, and I had socks and trainers on with a towel that you could see the socks and the trainers and stuff. But and the instructor sort of looked at me as I was leaving because I didn't want to tell him I'd forgotten my pants. Like, so he sort of gave. I was like, "See you later, see you next week." Like, and he was like, "Oh, make sure you do your books and all that." I was like, "Yeah, I look forward to it, mate." And he sort of glanced down at me in a towel as I walked out. Like, this lad's forgotten to put his pants on. But now I just forgot my pants all in. So yeah.
You didn't tell me that this morning.
No,
you spoke a lot about the scuba diving.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. I mean, I've never, ever driven in a towel anywhere.
Oh no, I was towel to the car.
Oh, then you got rid of towel?
I was in my boxies in the car, like, yeah, of course.
Why though?
It was warm.
No, yeah, but like you could have driven in the towel. Did that feel too strange?
It felt like I was wearing like a sarong.
Yeah,
is that the
that's
right
what
word?
I was getting at. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that would have been a bit weird. Like, you know what I mean?
It feels weirder than just being in your boxes.
And
for
they
some
were
reason.
mad boxies as well. Like,
as mad as your socks in the podcast the other day.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sam, I'm sound. Hope you are as well, and likewise that goes for everybody else in the chat watching along now with us. Let's get into it then. After that wonderful little segue, we all feel a bit closer to Chris now. I think it's fair to say.
The people in the Land Rover certainly dizzy next to me in the lights looking down.
Looking
like, what's
down,
this kid doing in his boxes?
Lost his viewing point they were on. Let's get into it then. Fabrizio Romano has been speaking, which is not like him. He said, I see many Liverpool fans are still waiting for concrete updates, but nothing is advanced in terms of negotiations. This is for Liverpool, of course. The midfield still could be a position to cover for Liverpool. I will not be surprised if Liverpool go for a midfielder this summer. And he went on to mention, for example, they have had several meetings and contacts with the agents of Ederson from Atalanta. He's one of the players Liverpool considered in the midfield, but never sending a proposal, also because they know it will be difficult and complicated. Okay. Now, the Ederson stuff, rather, has been sort of around, it feels like now, for about 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 weeks. It was shot down relatively comprehensively not too long ago, Chris. So, speak about the player in more detail as well, but also the position, I guess. Do you think, as Romano references there, do you think we will see something more concrete in the midfield over the coming weeks?
I don't know. I'm like probably everybody who's watching. You know, we don't have any inside information or anything like that. We talk about the rumours, we talk about the news and stuff like that, and we give our opinions on whether we think those rumours will come true. As far as Ederson goes, I don't tend to believe Fabrizio Romano until it gets to the very end of these types of deals, because I feel like a lot of the information that he supplies is to drum up interest on agents' behalfs. I might be wrong in that, but it does feel like he links a lot of clubs with a lot of players, and not all of it comes true. So for me, I wouldn't recommend using him as a source of concrete Liverpool information. Whereas, as you mentioned a few weeks ago, the Liverpool journos basically shat on it all and said this ain't happening. I could understand Liverpool moving for a midfielder. I don't know whether he'd be quite the midfielder that you'd go for. I don't know whether he's quite that ball hawk enough.
Okay.
Like a Paulinho almost, where they're just going to go and get you the ball. Obviously, he plays in it's a 3-2-4-1, isn't it, for Atalanta? So plays with a back three for a start. Quite often drops into that back three in the build-up phase of things. Isn't normally the one that goes forward. But I wouldn't call him like a tackle and interceptions king or anything like that in terms of the stats either. He feels very much suited to a 2, definitely. But is he I don't know. It's different. It's different with Italian football as well when you're looking at that type of a player, isn't it? Because they're just much more conservative in the way that they play football. You know, back to the defence to go out wide. Is a DM going to show up in the stats in quite the same manner? Probably not. So yeah, I don't know. If he's a good player, clearly, but whether he's the player that Liverpool want to release the front five, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, interesting.
What do you think of him?
I quite like him, to be honest with you, and I almost like, and I think it's actually almost a tick in the box that he is in that midfield destroyer that you mentioned. He isn't sort of an interception and a tackle merchant. As much as I'd like to see 12 months ago, I'd have loved to have seen us sign one of those because it felt like that's what we needed. But my inkling on what we're going to look like under Arne Slot is slightly different to what it was under Jurgen Klopp. Not just formation, but in terms of like systematically as well. And I think Ederson might actually fit that system slightly better. And just in terms of like the football he's played, I actually think the numbers in and around it lend themselves to a Liverpool move because they often talk about that sweet spot in terms of how many matches he's played. He's around the 160 to 170. He's just slightly above that as it happens. He's 215 games now into his professional career, so he's got enough experience. There's enough of a sample size for you, Michael Edwards, as your Vichiciu, your Julian Ward, to be tapping into and looking at. So there may be something in him necessarily, but just for what it's worth in terms of midfield itself, I would like us to do a bit of business in there. I think we've all spoke around the fact we'd like a Wataru Endo upgrade if possible, and I think Ederson kind of is that, because if we were to sign, you mentioned Palhinha, someone of that ilk, who's a good footballer, don't get me wrong, but is by and large interceptions, tackle, that's what his bread and butter is, that's what he's made his name on basically. If we were to sign that, do you want that alongside McAllister in double pivot? It'd be nice, don't get me wrong, but I want more of a ball player. I want somebody else who can do a little bit more with it. So you almost want the hybrid, similar to what McAllister is.
Well, yeah, Ederson has that ability, doesn't he? He's a bit of a conductor for Atalanta as well. So I understand that. In terms of what Arne Slot wants, I'm not 100% sure.
That's the problem,
That for me is the difficult thing at the moment. You know, much easier to analyse what's happening rather than predict what's going to happen when it comes to football, of course. So yeah, I take the points. You know, it could be a really good sign. As I say, I think he's a good player. I'm just not sure he's quite right. I mean, with Trent Alexander-Arnold, with McAllister, with the likes of Virgil van Dijk, can you get away with someone who's maybe not quite as good a ball player? Possibly.
With someone alongside him as well, potentially, who can do a little bit.
Well, that's what I mean. If Ederson, like, let's say it's Paulinho, as an example, it's not going to be Paulinho, but he's the perfect example of an absolute dog in the middle who can't really do anything but be a dog. When you've got Virgil, when you've got McAllister, when you've got Trent, I think you've got enough ball players that you can probably survive. But I don't know, it'd be interesting to see because again, we've said all summer long, there's so many players in that middle of the park. He is slightly different to them all though, and that does give credence to the rumour.
No, I agree absolutely 100%. Yeah, Bear's a fan of it. He thinks, he means Ederson, I'll forgive you. Will be excellent as part of a two at the base midfield. I can imagine him beside McAllister or Bajcetic. Okay, interesting then. We will move on. Just quickly, actually, there was a comment a moment ago about a complicated deal. I think that complication comes in. Serie A is never an easy place to buy from. It feels like first and foremost. But also, I think Koopmeiners looks like he's on his way to Juventus as well.
They don't want to lose their two best.
They're not going to want to lose their entire midfield, basically. Absolutely, yes. That probably muddies the waters a little bit, let's put it that way. Sound then. We'll move on to we'll move on to Anthony Gordon, shall we? Let's talk a bit more about it. We haven't done that enough in the past few days, it feels like, Chris. From Football Inside, Liverpool in talks over 100 million Anthony Gordon deal with Newcastle. Newcastle United have reportedly told Liverpool they want a jaw-dropping total package of 100 million for Anthony Gordon this summer. Merseyside Giants have concrete interest in signing the England international. It mentions the fee in a bit more detail. There we go. An initial 75 to 80 million with performance-related add-ons taking the deal up to 100 million. There's also been a fresh update here as well. And this has been doing around a little bit. It's more than actually Anthony Gordon keen to join Liverpool. There was all that talk, Chris, at the start of the week about his head being turned. And I think it's come out, it's emerged today more that he was actually telling people in England camp, probably Trent and Joe Gomez, you would imagine, I'll see you at the AXA. So this deal, we kind of alluded to this actually on Monday, this deal is far from dead in the water, it feels like.
Yeah, I think that's right, isn't it? Obviously, right now I imagine that the fees would be putting off Liverpool. But I do think they're going to spend big at some point. I think this one really relies on Luis Diaz going somewhere else, doesn't it? I can't imagine Liverpool are going to be sanctioning a deal for £100 million or a bid that will go up to £100 million without getting Luis Diaz's wages, which aren't which aren't a lot in comparison to a lot of players at Liverpool, and also some kind of a fee in for him, because quite frankly, we just don't need another left winger at the moment. And it does make me wonder, I sort of said this on Monday and I said this on the deep dive on Tuesday, I do think Gordon will become a Liverpool player. I'm not sure when, if it's a long-term future or what, but I do feel like you've got to take a look at Cody Gakpo.
Yes.
Like, he is tearing it up for the Netherlands from that left-hand side. Like, we've got Luis Diaz, we've got Cody Gakpo. Cody Gakpo could become £100 million left winger. And can you get yourself a right winger? And maybe that's one of the things that they're looking at. Maybe because they like the versatility of Anthony Gordon as well. But he's come out and he said himself, I play best from that left-hand side.
And he's proving it right now, isn't he? He's absolutely stonewall proving it. Like, and I must admit, his performances sort of in the backdrop of all the transfer talk and all the noise around Liverpool have changed the dynamic of the conversation a little bit for me. I'm a big Cody Gakpo fan, as you well know now. I've been waxing lyrical about him since the day he walked into the club, basically. But I do think all of a sudden, I was the one sort of champion for him midweek to get a set position and just get a run at a set position. Right now, it's hard to see that not being on the left wing. His performances are absolutely outstanding. Now, in terms of Gordon, I really like Anthony Gordon. I think
it'd be a fantastic signing, but when you've got someone there who could be as good.
And he's pulling up trees right now away into that. It's probably worth noting as well, the manager's country as well. He'll be keeping a close eye on the Euros full stop, and obviously his Liverpool players, but even more so the Netherlands. So the fact he's doing it for them will stand out in Arne Slot's mind above all else. And the chat itself is really split on Anthony Gordon in terms of the fee and all that sort of stuff. I think it's worth caveating any fees that we talk about and discuss with Anthony Gordon with the fact that will probably lend itself to Luis Diaz going out the door. So you get 55 grand a week back in wages, I think it is, plus the 50, 60, 70 million pounds worth of fee for Luis Diaz. So I'm not sure the albeit earth-shattering money for Gordon is actually too damaging. And as you say there, Gordon's direction of travel, Gordon's trajectory in terms of football probably means he'll end up at Liverpool, stroke a big, well-established Champions League club at some point. It's just when that is for me. So, yeah, in terms of this summer then, just to round off on Gordon, I guess your hunch, your feeling, Chris, is that it doesn't happen just yet, but...
I don't think it'll happen this summer, personally.
Do you think we have another weekend like we just had, though, whereby all of a sudden something just comes?
Could do, because I don't know what Liverpool are thinking. None of us do we? So, the rumours are there, and clearly he's a Liverpool fan. Clearly his head's been turned. But is it going to actually happen? I just look at the squad and I think, if it was me, and this is the wrong way to do it, of course, but there's a big hole on that right-hand side for a backup for Salah and a long-term future starter on the right-hand side with Salah entering his last contract. Spending £100 million or close to, whether you get 50 back or whatever, for Anthony Gordon seems mental when Salah can walk out the door for free next year, and you're going to have to spend £150 million to replace Salah. And there's not an easy replacement out there. So it just seems... You've got Jota who can stick out there on that left-hand side. You've got Cody Gakpo who can stick out there on that left-hand side. You've got Luis Diaz who can do it. And you've got Darwin Núñez who can do it. And at a real push, Curtis Jones can do it as well. It just seems...
It's overkill at that point.
It just seems a little bit crazy to go, let's spend another £100 million on Anthony Gordon, which is why I think maybe long-term, yes. I do feel like... And again, I don't know what's in the manager's thinking... But I'm the same as you. I think he's going to be looking at Cody Gakpo and Luis Diaz and going, fight it out, boys. Fight it out. Enough. And if Luis doesn't come, if Luis leaves, then you've got to ask a question. And someone who's versatile like Anthony Gordon, I can understand. But it's all then based off. I don't think Liverpool will bid for him without Luis Diaz going. No. So he might sign this season, but that is only if Luis Diaz goes out the door.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, absolutely. A lot of people mentioned Nico Williams, and Johan Bakayoko was mentioned a moment ago.
Nico Williams wants Barcelona.
It certainly seems that way, yeah. I mean, I guess the appeal with Nico Williams is how incredible he looks and how high his ceiling is. The age is obviously a great factor too, but also that release clause is so tempting. I mean, sort of in stark contrast to Luis Diaz, his wages are absolutely astronomical for somebody so young, but again, that's sort of offset by that low release clause.
You're probably looking at $12 million a year. In wages.
But when you're paying, I think it's around the £50 million mark to get him through the door in today's money.
So you're putting that down as £22 million a year on your books, aren't you? You're splitting the 50 million over actually release clause. Yeah, you still split it over.
Yeah.
You do still split it over, even though you pay it up front. You're splitting 10 million onto that, 12 million onto your wages.
And
so there's £22 million a year for 5 years.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dough.
It is a lot of dough. But if you're offsetting it with Diaz out the door and whatever he brings in, plus his wages off the books, plus we don't know what the future holds for Mohamed Salah and the like. So, yeah, it's hard to look at Nico Williams and what he's doing in the Euros and not be tempted by that lease clause, in my opinion. But again, I really like Anthony Gordon. I like Bakayoko for what it's worth as well. And I absolutely love Cody Gakpo. And as we sit here right now, I'm not averse whatsoever to just saying to Cody Gakpo, go on then. You know what I mean?
I think that's what I would do.
You've almost carried water.
In January.
Yeah, of course, but you've almost carried water for this side, and you've done the job, albeit under Jurgen Klopp, not necessarily on a slot. But you've played in this position, that position, done a bit of midfield. You've really been sort of pushed around a little bit. I do think he is sort of deserving of that run. And again, his form right now for Netherlands suggests he is too.
I said this on the deep dive on Tuesday as well. If you're going to throw it under me and Anthony Gordon, why don't you throw it under me at Musiala and see what's shaking there like?
Please.
You know what I mean?
Where do I sign?
Because I love Anthony Gordon. I think he'd be a fantastic signing.
Yeah, but it's not necessary right now.
But my words, like Musiala.
Yeah.
I know he'd be a fantastic sign. I think Anthony Gordon would be a fantastic sign. I think I know Musiala would be a fantastic sign.
I think both would be, because obviously Anthony Gordon's got all the positives in terms of attributability and quality, but he actually has that burning desire and that real walk over hot coals sort of passion to play for Liverpool, which helps, 100% it helps. But Musiala's absolutely incredible. And in terms of problem areas that need solving right now, we could happily go with Gakpo, Diaz, Jota, Núñez from the left for another year if it meant we got Musiala through the door. And Musiala does have, contract issues to resolve over in Munich. Anyway, Sam, we'll move on. I've left that comment on the screen for a while because it's around Mark Gahey, and Romano, our friend Fabrizio, has been speaking about him as well. He mentioned, just as a second paragraph of this article here, in terms of names coming in for the defence, Mark Gahey has been linked to Liverpool as well as other clubs several times, and he's impressing with England at the Euros. There is interest from many clubs, but nothing close or concrete yet. He wants to focus on the tournament now and not be distracted. For sure, Gahey remains an interesting name for the summer with 2 years left on his contract at Crystal Palace. Now, Chris, that last line there, that's the interesting one for me. Now, Palace are about to lose Michael Olise. There's a good chance to lose Eberechi Eze this summer as well with his release clause over his head. Now, there's no release clause on Mark Gahey, but for Crystal Palace, it's stick or twist time. Yeah. If you get him a new deal or you sell him and you cash in this summer. So for us, should we be looking at him and going, we like Calafiori, he looks to be Arsenal bound. Is Gahey another sensible option?
I think he's definitely a sensible option again, and I hate talking around this, around football, but the fact that he'd be a homegrown player makes a massive difference to your squad makeup. It just helps you in that regard, doesn't it? If I'm comparing Calafiori to Mark Gahey, I don't think there's a comparison. I think Calafiori looks well better than Mark Gahey.
Really, yeah.
I really, really do. I really have fallen in love with Calafiori this summer. Mark Gahey's had a good tournament for England, of course, a good season for Crystal Palace as well. But in terms of impact, I think Calafiori would have a much bigger impact myself.
What Calafiori does have, probably over Mark Gahey, and you can see it here on what I brought up, is the fact that we often sort of wax lyrical about the fact that we want a left-footed centre-back who can play left-back. Now, Mark Gahey can't do that, as evidenced by the fact he's literally played one game in professional football as a left-back and 262 as a centre-half. So I get that. But in terms of, raw ability and being a centre-back, Mark Gahey's superb, I think. I'm quite surprised you're so clear in your mind as to which one's the better option. I'm a big Mark Gahey fan. I think if you could get him, the fee would be more costly than Calafiori. Calafiori, you're talking between the 50 and 55 million mark. That feels really, really something. That's a bit of a bargain. But if you were to offer me Gahey at 65, for example, just to pluck a figure out of thin air,
and where would you play him?
All over that.
Would you play him at?
Just goes into rotation as the centre halves for me.
On the right?
He can do the right, but he's predominantly done the left for Palace. So you could just be a backup to Virgil van Dijk, which I know is a lot of money for a backup, don't get me wrong. But
I think that's part of it with it for me, because I just don't see that we need a left-sided centre half, and that's where he plays.
So that's Van Dijk playing almost exclusively
unless
the entire season
Van
again.
Dijk. But again, either option would be fine for that as well.
Okay, 23 years old, 15 England caps. Good wealth of experience.
Listen, I think he's a good player. I just think Calafiori's better.
Well, he could be off the table.
He could be.
Calafiori.
And if he's off the table, he's off the table, but he's not.
Okay.
He's on the table because people are making bids for him, and it looks like Arsenal are making bids for him.
Seemingly, he's more on the table than he's ever been, actually. Just Liverpool are not that particular table.
Yeah. Get at the table, lads. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I wouldn't be disappointed to sign Mark Gay. Signing quality players is a good thing.
Yeah. No, okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, that's understandable. So we'll move on then. Actually, before we do, we do need a new centre-back. Virgil van Dijk will not go on forever. For Mark Gay, he's tailor-made replacement. I'm inclined to agree with that, I must admit. I'm a big fan of his. Calafiori doesn't have Sam Walker. Is that our very own Sam Walker? If so, hi. If not, hi as well. Calafiori doesn't have Prem experience when Gahey does. Yeah, okay. Joachim Anderson's well better. Yeah, I like Anderson, but I'm not sure he's much better than Mark Gahey. Okay. Sport Build next. Stop. Bayer Leverkusen, fullback, attacker, whatever you want to call him. I think he's a defender by name rather than trade. Jeremy Frimpong is once again making the news over in Germany. And Liverpool are mentioned. Liverpool and Manchester United have been in contact. No, sorry. Hang on. Liverpool and Manchester United with their Dutch coaches Arne Slot and Erik ten Hag will also keep in touch. There we go. During the European Championships. That's regarding Jeremy Frimpong, of course. And it says there he can go for 40 million.
Absolutely ridiculous for him, but he plays on that right-hand side. Now, that means that you're moving Trent Alexander-Arnold almost exclusively into the centre, because what Frimpong's done in that Leverkusen side is unbelievable. Like, he gets forwards big time, you know, and really has involved himself in the attacking play of Bayern Leverkusen. So, yeah, he's a fantastic player. I'd love us to bid for him, but again, I'm not sure he fits in with what we want right now unless you're moving Trent.
Well, can I say some words then? In that case, 40 million, I presume it's euros coming from Sport Build. We were just speaking a moment ago how we need some backup to Mohamed Salah.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
He is so attack-minded, like frighteningly attack-minded. Don't get me wrong, I think, you know, right wing back essentially. Right back's not correct. It's just not. Right wing back for Leverkusen. So Marley Clark actually makes the same point here. Get Frimpong for right wing, like at 40 million euros.
It's worth the roll of the dice at 40 million.
I think so. And people above in the chat were saying, let him go to Manchester United. That can't happen. He's so good.
He's so good.
At that price, listen, is that an opportunistic signing? We spoke about them quite a lot recently. One you just can't afford to pass up on. If he is available for 40 million euros, I mean, whatever you want to do with him, that feels so smart.
Could be. Really could be, Dan. As you say, he's a wild player. Like, he's an absolutely superb player. I'd be shocked if he moved though this summer.
Yeah, as John Thomas says, a steal at that price. And Teo also, I'm looking forward to Slot's press conference to you.
I am, mate. I'll be going.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that one.
Looking forward to that one indeed. Sound, we'll move on from that. Actually, one that sort of came across my interest about an hour ago now. According to, I don't even know where to begin with that first name. I'll be dead honest.
Wiebe
de
Vrij.
W's are often V's, aren't they, in Holland? Anyway,
Wiebe de
Vrij, who works for ESPN Netherlands, by the way, has claimed this morning on Twitter, Liverpool manager Arne Slot has already had a personal talk with Crysencio Summerville, of course, of Leeds. Seems like it's going to be PSG or Liverpool is the new club at the moment for the Leeds winger. Okay.
Scored a lot of goals and got a lot of assists in the Championship
player of the season, you know, just missed out on promotion narrowly at the back end of the season. I don't know, another predominantly left winger. And it feels, not just that, you're right, but also if there's Gordon, people mentioned Kvaratskhelia earlier on, Nico Williams, like I'd have all three of them above Summerville. And no disrespect to him, I think he's a very good player who will be in the Premier League, but I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows? It feels a very Liverpool signing.
Yes, 100%.
That's
right out the Michael Edwards playbook, by the way.
Doesn't it?
I agree.
Like the one that you really. Yeah, that's the one we're going for out of all these players that are on the market this summer.
And he's got 32 by March.
And then you're like, okay, Michael, I see you. Yeah. I'm watching, Michael. You're doing all right there, my friends. I'm with you. He's exactly where you had him. He's probably fourth on that list, but he does not feel like a Liverpool signing for me, Dan.
Yeah. I agree. Next up then, we're rattling through them here, which is nice. Mario Nottingham Forest defender, of course, has been heavily linked with a move away from Forest. Chelsea are one of the clubs interested, of course they are. And he himself has been speaking on the Benja Me Mucho podcast down in Brazil. Yeah, do you know it well?
Yeah, I listen all the time,
on the way in this morning, yeah. So you'll know about it.
I heard it, I didn't understand it. It was in Portuguese.
It's difficult, yeah. He said these words, I don't know if it's 70 million, but I know there was a buzz of interest. So I don't know exactly how much the amount is, but I know there was interest. I had the dream of playing in the Premier League, and I thought I'll go to Nottingham Forest, have a good year, and then I'll go to a big club.
Oh.
Just quickly, penny for the fourth.
Hello, Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham Forest.
Hello, mate. They've won more European Champions, European Cups than Arsenal.
Correct. It's not hard, but yeah, correct. I had that in my head. So yeah, he's doubling down on the fact he wants to leave. Why would that pop up right now? There we go. He then goes on to say, Chelsea target Mourinho also named Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester City as clubs who will be open to joining this summer. He says, I choose Manchester City, but it'll be more difficult for me as a regular starter given the players they have in their squad. There's City, Arsenal as well, who are fighting for the Premier League title. I wouldn't discard Liverpool either. It will be a good opportunity for me to show my football in a big club. Wow. I mean, we're talking £70 million, which feels a bit rich for my blood, considering the player that he is. And listen, I think he's got a bright future. He's only 21. He's going to be an elite level defender, in my opinion. But right now, I just don't know. So I'll be honest as well. This interview is almost enough reason for Michael Edwards to go, no thanks.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to wash with many that Chelsea won't care. But I don't reckon Liverpool, Man City or Arsenal will look at what he's saying it and basically just saying, I want to move. I'm not happy where I am. I want to go to a big club. That's not a good look, that.
Do you think Michael Edwards think like that if it was Anthony Gordon?
Probably not. But you have to be a certain calibre.
Yeah.
I think.
But when you look at Gordon, forces his way out of Everton.
Yeah, the Everton fans will have a conversation with us about that, of course. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I agree with you, though. I do.
Doesn't sit well with me. Doesn't sit well. And I do think, listen, for what it's worth, around all these conversations, I think we need a centre-back. I'd like a midfielder. I'm not convinced. An upgrade on our left-wing situation.
Left-wing situation?
Yeah, personally.
An upgrade on our left-wing situation?
Yeah, I think so.
So you don't want Gakpo to go into the season?
I'd like Gakpo to do it, but I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen him do a run of games there for Liverpool yet and be the guy. So I'm still got dubious thoughts about it. And I absolutely adore him.
Yeah, I'm still very much of you've got to sort that right-hand side out at some point, and it's probably better to do it while you've got Mo.
But I must admit, when I think about that right-hand side, and if Salah isn't there, immediately your thoughts turn to Harvey Elliott a little bit, Dom Szoboszlai a little bit. Then after that, you're Cade Gordon, you're Ben Doak, which is and I like the both of them, don't get me wrong, but that's some drop-off in terms of experience and age.
It would probably take, even if Ben Doak were to hit world-class levels, 4 or 5 years for that to be the case.
17. He's 17.
And you'd be lucky to get him in 4 or 5 years, so it's a long old way. I don't personally think that Kai Gordon can ever hit Mo Salah levels. Okay. That might be harsh. I'm sorry.
I must admit, his injury sort of curtailed his development massively. I think he was 18, 19 months out in the end, so that hasn't helped him.
So I definitely would be looking at that right-hand side. I think I've got to do something. I don't know whether to do it this summer, but I've got to have the budget to do it when it's needed. That might impact this season. I prefer it to be this summer, of course. Yeah. Definitely a centre-back of some description. And a centre midfielder. It's as simple as that, and a backup goalie, obviously, if
that's probably going to be a necessity at some point. Okay. Tim Masson asks, will we see Jayden Danns more regularly under slot, you think? I hope so. But the under slot thing is a bit of a spanner in the works. We just don't know how Arne Slot's going to use the youngsters and stuff like that. Yeah, I think all sort of signals from his previous jobs will suggest they'll give them opportunity, but it's so difficult that right now. I do hope so. I like Jayden Danns a lot. Quickly going to run through a couple of bits of news, not necessarily involving Liverpool, but potentially impacting Liverpool as well. Ederson, not the one we spoke about at the top of the show. Manchester City goalkeeper Ederson looks destined for the Saudi Pro League this summer. Al Nassr are one of the clubs to be in and around him. I think personal terms have been agreed as well, to be honest with you. So, Chris, it looks like they're going to go with Stefan Ortega. Now, I want to frame the question to you in this way. If this were Liverpool losing Alisson Becker, and we were saying we're going to go with Kevin Kelleher. Now, I love Kevin Kelleher. We all love Kevin Kelleher. He's been outstanding. But that's Manchester City getting weakened, and I think people would look at Liverpool, if that was the case, on our shoulders, going, well, they're getting weakened now. So it's impossible to look at this in any other way as being a positive from our point of view.
It's a positive from our point of view. It's a negative from Manchester City's point of view. Ederson's a better goalkeeper right now than Stefan Ortega, but they've always this has been sort of in the background for a good 12 months or so now, that they were going to put their trust into Ortega and stuff like that. So they must see behind closed doors what he's doing, and they must think he's got a chance of getting to the Ederson's level. But for me, Ederson is so good on the ball. So much better on the ball than pretty much any goalkeeper I've ever seen, actually, to be fair.
Yeah, that's one thing.
He's such a massive impact on that side, and that their ability to play. I mean, he's a big old target. He's hard to beat. He's good at, he's good at everything, really. Yeah. I think, as you say there, Ederson's better at, the footballing side of things than Alisson, I think, would put him ahead in everything else. But Ortega definitely weakens them, and that's a good thing for us.
Certainly is. A nice comment here from Stoney the Clown. Man City get rid of Ederson are preparing now for being in the Championship.
Chapeau.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope so. What if City sign Kelleher? Yeah, I don't think we'll let that happen, to be honest with you. Away from domestic action now, just for a moment, Chris. We spoke briefly about this morning upstairs over our morning coffee chat. Early England team news hints at Trent Alexander-Arnold role in new system. Now, this comes from this Anfield, but it's been doing the rounds for the past 24 hours, more or less. That new system is going to be a 3 at the back. Now, we sort of flirted with some possible ideas of this England lineup, and I think did we come down on the fact that Kyle Walker's going to be one of the 3 centre-backs?
Yeah, definitely.
And if Trent is involved, to be the right wing-back?
Yeah,
what you thought?
100%. I think it works much better for England in the defensive side of things. It's going to be difficult without Mark Gahey, to actually have the 3 at the back is going to be a thing. But Kyle Walker, obviously, Konza and John Stones will probably play the 3. The left wing back is really weak if you're asking Trippier to get further forwards than he has been, because you see him turn back every time he goes forward. I think it helps them defensively. I'm not sure it helps them at all attacking-wise, unless Trent gets on the ball a hell of a lot. But that will help them massively. But the big problem that they've got to solve is Phil Foden out on the left-hand side.
Yes.
And Jude Bellingham playing in the 10 and Harry Kane playing in the 9, because they're all playing in the 10.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? We spoke about that. Kane wants to drop deep, Bellingham wants to push forward, and Foden wants to come inside. Yeah. So all of a sudden, they're all within like 10 yards.
Can you imagine? Remember the old Football Manager from years ago, where you used to draw the lines yourself?
Yes,
can you ever imagine? And they're all just pointing in the same fucking place, and you're like, well, that's not going to work, is it, mate?
That's what's happening, basically, in real life right now, absolutely. You mentioned the left wing back there, and listen, we're not fully invested in the England situation, but it's a talking point. You mentioned, that's so weird, I was just about to say those words, Sean. And we spoke about this morning, and we kind of laughed off the idea initially, but then I think we both came to the conclusion, if it was Saka to play the left wing, that actually suits the left wing back situation, suits a lot more than left back.
It definitely does from an attacking point of view, but what we know about Gareth Southgate is he's not an attacking coach. So will he put Saka on one side and Trent? Put it this way, do you think Gareth Southgate is going to put 2 players at wing back who the best defender of those 2 is Trent Alexander-Arnold?
That's a good point. And the first forward is just first forward is just forward. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree, absolutely. And I think the Trent thing's interesting. We'll double down on that for a moment if we can, because obviously that's the main reason we're here. Him at right wing back, is that fascinating to you? Do you want to see that? Could that become Liverpool do in the future potentially with him?
Well, who is your runner? Who's he passing to?
That's the problem. That's what I was going to come to next. Because who's going in behind?
Saka's the one that goes in behind.
And that's a long way to go.
Especially if you play left back.
That's what I mean.
So if you play in, what would he put Palmer on the right? He did it. He brought Palmer on the right.
It would be in that instance, yeah.
So Palmer's not a runner in behind. No. Kane's not a runner in behind. No. Foden's not a runner in behind.
You'd want Anthony Gordon, wouldn't you?
Bellingham might be your shot, or Anthony Gordon, or something like that. Bellingham from deep or whatever. But
for crosses.
For crosses,
not necessarily the switch.
No.
Because if that was the case, if he was going to go with this, let's just live in that world. I think he'd have to play Gordon on the left instead of Foden.
Yeah.
And maybe goes Foden across instead of Palmer, like we just said. That feels like it makes more sense. So therefore, Gareth Southgate will definitely not do it.
Yeah. Because he can't possibly do what makes sense to people.
Because that feels like the most sensible option. And listen, it is
how am I going to get there? I'm going to walk that way, all the way around, and then I'm going to get there.
Somebody a moment ago mentioned hopefully Shaqiri gets a hat-trick, and kind of yes, to be honest with you. But listen, we talk about these things. It's literally what we're here to do. And just finally, somebody mentioned Calafiori a moment ago. Yeah, absolutely agree with you, mate. Somebody mentioned Calafiori a moment ago. I did want to touch on that. We've kind of referenced it as the show went on, but Chris, Arsenal are preparing for more contacts over Ricardo Calafiori, deal on both player and club side. Now, we mentioned a moment ago, Man City potentially getting weaker by allowing Ederson to leave and going with Stefan Ortega.
The best defence in the league getting better.
Yeah, and Liverpool, listen, we don't know how strong Liverpool's interest is or isn't in Ricardo Calafiori, but what we do know is there has been links there. Calafiori is clearly on the radar of some big clubs, and without meaning to sound too simplistic amongst all of this, because Michael Edwards' supercomputer is far more powerful than my head. However, if Arsenal are keen, it can suggest that he might be quite good and it might be worth having a look at. And again, I said it earlier on, 50 million euros, like, that feels so achievable. And listen, he might have his heart set on Arsenal and there's nothing Liverpool can do about it right now. But we're famous for getting involved in deals that might not come off. Lenny over Real Madrid, for example. I hate saying this, and forgive me, what are we doing?
I don't know, but I hope that we're speaking to them at some point and we're trying to hijack the deal like Chelsea did. Or we tried with Chelsea last season, obviously, for Casado. Unfortunately, it didn't come off that time or whatever. But it just seems like a no-brainer for me. I mean, he looks really, really good. He's at a price that you'd expect and you'd be happy with more than anything. He's of a good age. He can take that left-hand side role from Virgil van Dijk in a couple of years' time. He can fill in at the moment in that sort of pseudo left-back, left-side centre-half thing. We've got two centre-backs on the right-hand side. You may still need to address something around that because of the injury history of Konate, but you're really confident in Kwanzaa. And we know we've got a good crop of youngsters coming through over the next few years as well. Yeah. But Arsenal seem to be doubling down on this. We talked about this yesterday, doubling down on this centre-backs across the board. Because obviously Ben White's done it so well from that right-hand side, and Tommy Asu's done it at times from the left, but more often than not, it's been Zinchenko. Whereas if Calafiori comes in, that is a hell of a mean defence. And there's four lads that you can go, sit back. Yeah. You're just there, and we're going to break these teams down, and you just, once get the ball, pass it to these lads, and we'll just attack and attack and attack. Yeah. Sign him, Liverpool, because you also potentially weaken Arsenal. Yeah,
no, I agree. Listen, I have full trust, faith, and all the similar words in Arne Slot, Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes, Julian Ward. And if we don't enter this conversation, I still back us with so long left in the transfer window. I've seen a lot of people referencing this yesterday as well. There's so much time to go that I think we'll get the right business done. But you said the words there, no-brainer. And I'm similarly sold on Calafiori, as you seem to be as well. And he just feels like he ticks so many boxes. And again, the fee feels reasonable. He clearly wants to move to the Premier League. Like, I'm not stunned, but a little bit surprised that we aren't closer to this deal, especially with all the noise that's been over the past couple of weeks. And again, I come back to what I said. I still trust Michael Edwards that we will get proper business done and we will get better for it. However, when Arsenal, now a clear, obvious rival to Liverpool, are doing it, it is a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, it's galling, to be honest with you. And it makes me go down paths in my head that I don't want to go down, because I'm starting to think, like, oh God, I mean, I know Liverpool are going to get business done this year. I think they're going to splash big at times as well. I think it might be quality over quantity this summer, certainly. And a lot does depend on the players that go out, but then the little devil on my shoulders going, lad, they're just going to re-sign Matip. And I'm going, please don't just re-sign Matip. I just can't deal with that. And then he's going, they're just going to re-sign Joel Matip.
It's hard, and I get the call for patience, but it is hard not to get ever so slightly frustrated when you see your direct rivals doing business, and on top of that, it's business that you feel like you could be doing and would strengthen us immediately as well. So, let's all keep the faith for now. Thomas Doubting, ironically, with the positivity, says, lads, we know the real business is happening, but we don't hear about it until it's done. And listen, I'm with you, and I'm willing to stand on and die on that hill with you, but at the same time, please start doing some stuff. Sound boss, happy days. Nice one, Chris, appreciate it. Appreciating the comments as well, as always. Nice to chat, and we will see you again very soon. Take it easy.